Does it? Can you see it on Facebook?
On my screen.
Can you see it on Facebook? Is the question.
No.
Okay.
I think we're there though. I think we are on Facebook. It's a secret location.
It's a secret location. I can see us on Facebook now.
Okay,
Go.
cool. So good day, everybody, or evening. Really pleased that we've got this opportunity this morning, which is our first Love Note from Viva, and that is going to be a series of short, fairly stunning conversations with our lovely speakers who are going to be going virtual with us. Viva goes virtual this year, which is our annual event, number 6 this year. And we like to share as much as we can the goodness of Viva, if you like. So we create each year something different. So this time, the idea of Love Notes from Viva just hit the spot. And then it's the easy bit, because we've got all these lovely people who just keep volunteering for they don't know what, really. And then I sometimes show up on time even to start these things. So that's, it's a win-win-win. So this morning, one more thing to mention is that we can't not mention this because it's only happening in July. We have an early bird bonus called a Splash of Viva, an early bird bonus. So anyone who buys a ticket up until the 31st of July receives an invitation to the best party in town. Could be the best party globally, universally, no, in town. And where we're going to have a lot of fun and some surprises. And some deep and meaningful talk. So it's got everything. It's a little taste of Viva, or a little splash of Viva. So I'm here this morning with Sheila Massand, my wonderful business partner and friend, the co-creator of Viva, and lovely Dr. Anne Curtis. And Sheila's going to say just a couple of words about
You've taken the words right out of my mouth. So yeah, so my other gorgeous friend here with us today is Dr. Anne Curtis, who is actually up the road from me in Spain at the moment, and she looks like she's in a forest. I don't recognise it. I don't recognise that forest where you live, but hey ho. So Anne's a gorgeous human being. As Sue said, she's agreed to come on and talk to us today about sex. And so we're really excited that she says she doesn't have a clue what she's going to say, but not that I quite believe that, but and we're here to drop in and ask any questions. And if anybody's watching, and I can see we've got a few people online at the moment with us, there's a couple of people at least, unless I count as one of those, I'm not sure.
I think I'm one.
But yeah, please ask, and we'll be here for about 15 to 20 minutes talking about sex. And Anne's got some experience as a professional in this department. I quickly added that word in. And so I'm going to hand it over to you before I dig myself into a deeper hole.
Okay. Thanks, Sheila. Thanks. So if anyone has questions or anything that they'd like to ask about specifically, then just let us know. In the meantime, the reason that we're talking about this is because I trained originally as a medical doctor, and then having realized that relationships and emotions and all of life was a big influence on health that had been missed out in our training. I eventually managed to find a training in psychosexual medicine, which led to me being a sexual and relationship therapist, in addition to being a medical doctor. And I loved doing it. I loved it. It was great for me getting into something psychological, and we were going to be helping people. I was going to be helping people sort out their relationships, and of course, one of the main reasons I wanted to do that was because my relationships were a mess, and I had so much thinking. Now, looking back on it now, I had so much thinking around sex as well as relationships, but sex in particular. And at the time, I didn't realize or understand that, but it was a bit of a clue to me that something was still missing from that training when at the end of 4 years of training in sexual therapy, my husband left me. I was like, still didn't understand what was going on, and still didn't understand why I was so confused about relationships and sex and so on. And so after that, I went on to train in, I just looked for other ways of making it even better for myself and for other people that I was still seeing in my clinics. And what was so odd, and I really couldn't explain, was that some people would come and would do one session with me, and they were like, oh yeah, that's it, and they were completely, their problem was gone, and everything was okay. And other people would be coming back week after week after week for literally for 2 years, and nothing would be changing. And I, as far as I knew, I was doing the same thing and sharing the same things, and had no idea why. And I asked the consultant in psychotherapy, the psychotherapy consultant, and he was like, oh, they're just not ready to get better yet. I'm like, I know that's not true, because I'm ready, and it's not happening for me. So I went on and did training in NLP and EFT and hypnotherapy and every other thing that I could find. And all of those techniques made a difference, did helped to get better results for some people, or at least seemed to. But they didn't really sort out what was going on. I still didn't understand what was working, what wasn't working, why it was working, why it wasn't working. And eventually I got so frustrated and felt like a fraud, really, because I'm people are coming to see me and I really don't know what I'm doing or why I'm doing it, and why it's working for some people, why it isn't working for other people. And eventually I packed in my practice in 2009, and it wasn't until 2014 when I came across the 3 principles understanding. I thought, oh, that's what it is. That's what it's all about. Now I understand. Now I understand what's going on, not, in sexual relationships as well as in, and when you look at it, actually, there's been so much thinking around sex for in the Victorian times, and then in up to the 50s, when my mother was young. It was all no sex before marriage, good girls don't do that sort of thing, and then other people would have other sort of thinking, but there was a lot of that around, and of course then there was all the thinking about getting pregnant and so on, and all sorts of thinking about what sex means, loads and loads and loads of thoughts about sex means this or it means that, or if and to do with desire and so on. And then of course came the sexual revolution, where women started taking responsibility and taking control and demanding stuff, which gave men a lot of thought. Then there was a lot of thought for men. So, and now it's sort of got a bit stuck, I think. So there's a lot of, in general, not necessarily so much among people, although even I've noticed even people who understand the 3 principles in relationships, and particularly in sex, still get stuck around not noticing that that's actually just thought. So another thing that I noticed was when I was running my clinics and my private practice, was that so, like, it must have been maybe 90-something% at least of what seemed to be physical sexual problems. So people would be sent to me with, sexual problems that were supposedly physical because they've got a physical problem, like they got diabetes, or they were on renal dialysis, or they would, or one lady, for example, had everything, all her sexual organs removed, and had plastic surgery to remake a vagina, for example. And she was sent to me by the gynecologist because she was upset that she wasn't having orgasms. And she came to see me and we sat and I just allowed her to talk and so on. And the gynecologist sent her because he just wanted me to deal with this, with her loss and her, you know, that she was going to have to get used to this idea that she wasn't going to have orgasms because she had nothing there sexually. Well, and it turned out when she came to see me that she actually was having orgasms. She just wasn't having them with the person she thought she should be having them with. And so it just goes to show that actually, and there's lots of other proof, for example, that women don't actually need anything physical to have orgasms. You can have orgasms simply through thought, or simply through whatever. It's possible to have the physical sensations without physically being touched. So all these women's particularly romances with lots of sex in, about, oh, he made me feel this and he made me feel that and he was perfect, he knew exactly what to do. And it's actually rubbish, because unless it makes sense, actually. I mean, how are you going to have an orgasm if you're busy thinking? Because it's all about letting go, isn't it? It's all about not being stuck in thought. So I've got so many things going through my mind about, oh yes, that now I've got stuck. So I'll rest a minute. Have you got any questions while I'm rebooting?
Well, something that came to mind, Anne, and I love, thank you for sharing that story. I mean, I've never heard of a rebuilt vagina, to be honest. It's like, wow. And I think some of the things that you're talking about are probably so well known to you, and you know, somebody who's not an expert in the field doesn't really understand. I wondered if you could, well, there are two things that came to mind. I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about, you know, you're saying it's all thought, isn't it? Could you expand a little bit on that, as in terms of, you know, its relationship to sex? I think I understand what you mean, but just for people who are listening, could you explain a little bit more about what you mean?
Sure. Yeah. I'm just trying to think of well, for example, when I was younger, when I was first in sexual relationships, I had so much thinking about, was I doing it right? Was I looking right? What was my body looking like? What did he want? Was I doing what I should be doing? Was he finding me attractive? There was just so much thought going on that I wasn't able to be in the moment and just experiencing the sensations and then on top of that, when my partner would say, I would do something, or I would say something, which, you know, if I did do something spontaneous, or I thought, I just felt like doing something, and then my partner would have a funny reaction, would be, he didn't like that, or I would have more thinking then about, oh my goodness, shouldn't be doing this. Lots of shoulds and shouldn'ts. That's one good point, Sheila. Anything that's a should or a shouldn't that's going on in our minds is getting in the way. And of course we can't just get rid of those. It's just a matter of noticing that they're there. And once you start noticing that they're there and they're actually not helpful and nothing to do with you, and they're coming from some little voice in the head going, which is not helpful because it doesn't know anything. The voice in the head is supposedly giving you all this advice and help, and actually it's not helping at all. And really, what's just coming to my mind now is what Sid said about whatever you're looking for in life. So if you're looking for a happy sexual relationship, if you're looking for pleasure in a sexual relationship, if you're looking to please another person, if whatever you're looking for, you're actually looking for your inner self. And if you your true self, which is not all that thinking, it's remembering that all that thought is not who you are, is not you, and quietening down and just letting all that stuff come and go and being and yeah, settling down so that you're remembering who you really are, which is the quiet behind all of that, the one who is one with the other person. So you already are one with the other person, and you don't have to be pleasing them. You don't have to be trying to please someone else. It's not going to work in a relationship or in sex. And all that thought is basically just rubbish. So you can just ignore it. Don't try and get rid of it. Don't try and do anything with it, but just focus on instead who you really are. Focus on that love and who you really are. And then you'll know what to do. You'll automatically be following what you really, whatever you're inspired to do. And that can't be wrong. So don't listen to any of that thought. Don't listen to the other person's thought about it being wrong. Don't listen to your thought about it being wrong, because the other person's going to have thought too. Okay, so that gets in the way too sometimes. So it's just a matter of like ignoring all that thought and coming back to being who you really are, the essence of who you really are, I think.
I had a thought then, Anne, that I've always maintained or thought that for me, and I thought for women in general, that sex was not a separate thing from the whole relationship, that it was embedded within, and your daytime mattered in terms of how the evening or the night, let's go to traditional things like sex at night.
Yeah, sure.
And I can see through that a bit more now, because it's only a creation in the day, or in what you're making of your relationship in its entirety. That's just more thought, but sort of creates a context for then the thinking you might have about, oh, well, he wasn't this today, or I didn't, we're not getting on very well. I can't just sort of walk upstairs and the magic sort of switch goes on. So it's all thought. So I got the two camps being all thought, but I still had one camp in another. So, it's tricky, really is tricky. And I think this is a great subject. We've only just begun. And so really looking in a direction, in a sense, because as you say, you're not saying to do anything about this. You just keep looking in the direction of where all of this separation, these filters come from, as opposed to looking at the filter of thought. Yeah,
and it's much less of a doing. As I say, the doing part comes naturally once there are practices. And there are practices that you can do where you just sit and sit quietly with each other. So you can just sit and look into each other's eyes and just be together, and that can be amazingly powerful. And then where that leads to, it's not having expectations. Too is there are so many expectations, which again is thought, so many expectations about what sex should be, how it should be, what we should do and shouldn't do, and a lot. I mean, it just reminded me of Linda when when they started to do their talk at the beginning of in Viva last time.
Linda Pettit.
Yeah, Linda Pettit, when they came in the morning, there was just such a lovely feeling around them, and it was a sexual feeling. It was just lovely feeling, and they weren't having sex but sex is not just about having sex.
No.
Like you said, it's part of your whole relationship. It's part of the day. It can be between people who are not even in a relationship. You know, there can be sexual feelings, but it's a connection. It's a connection and a deep, it's no different from that really deep, loving connection that we have. And it's, see, even orgasm has got completely out of proportion with that, because it's not just about, you can have great sex without having an orgasm, for example, and yet so much is put on, you know, there's a lot of thought around that. There has to be an orgasm, or there have to be 10 orgasms, or there have to be, yeah, that sort of thing. Somebody in my, when I was running my practice, I had a man sent to me from the renal dialysis unit, again for a similar sort of thing. They said he's having problems getting erections because he's on renal dialysis. But when he came to see me, and I actually asked him what was happening, he was complaining that he was only able to get erections 4 or 5 times a day. And in the past, it was a lot more than that. And so, of course, the doctors in dialysis hadn't asked him what any of these details. And if he was able to get erections physically, if he's able to get erections, he's able to get them. You know, there is no physical problem, because if he can get an erection, he can get an erection. But he had so much thinking, and it doesn't. Of course, a lot of these, like with a lot of other medical conditions, if doctors tell you this is a possibility, this, you know, if you're on dialysis, or if you have this operation, or if you have a prostate operation, for example, you may not, you know, you may have problems with erections afterwards. And of course, that thought is enough to cause the problem in the first place. So this guy didn't have the problem that the doctors thought he had at all. He had a problem with thought around how many times he thought he should be having it, and he believed that the dialysis was causing him a problem. But so there is so much around it, not understanding who we really are, that there's that we can have a much deeper connection, and that's what we're really looking for, is that the deeper connection. So it really is a matter of going in to enjoy sex as much as possible. It's really a matter of looking inwards, not looking outwards, and not looking at what's going on in the relationship, what you're trying to please someone else, trying to be what you think you should be, or look in a certain way, and so on. So it's more about who am I, what am I, and just being, quietening down, just allowing yourself to be, and going from there, really.
So in a way, it sounds to me like this, you could substitute pretty much anything else in life for the word sex. Career, money, yes.
The Hound of the Baskerville.
Yes, just reminding me to stay present. And that's great, because it, in some ways, it's the subtraction of all of the layers, and it's the getting back to, and that applies to any other area of life too. Any other area. In fact, anything that's outside of us. Oh, wonderful. I'm going to mute myself.
I've got lots of questions popping, but I know we said that we'd keep this as short as we could. And I mean, I know what you're saying, so it's kind of universal, isn't it, in terms of what topic can slot in there. And I know there are people out there that don't see, when you get sort of into a topic that you feel like you've got a problem with, it definitely doesn't look universal to you at that point in time. It's like, no, this is different. This is not anything to do with thought. This has a different cause. There's something different going on here. So there's lots of questions popping in that direction. Maybe we'll have to do it again, you never know, but we'll definitely have you at Viva. We'll have you at our Splash of Viva, and we'll have you at our online October 4-day event, which we're really looking forward to. And one of your topics, Dr. Anne Curtis, we are pretty sure will be sex, because we've had lots of requests in that department for conversation around sex and the 3 principles. So yeah, we're looking forward to it.
It's good to do this as a sort of an introduction, because then people can ask specific questions and come up, and that would be.
Yeah, and we're encouraging people that are listening and watching afterwards, any questions you have for Anne or Sue and I, whatever, we'll pass the sex questions on to Anne, of course. Anything about Viva, we're your girls. So yeah, thank you, Anne. It's great.
Thank you. Yes,
I appreciate you taking the time from your walk in the woods. It was,
yes, I was lucky to find that bench and that table just in the woods there. Fabulous.
And we'll see you soon.
Bye-bye, and thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.